How do I look? Hey everybody, this is Tim, back again with another video. And yeah, as you might have noticed, the video quality should have improved quite a lot. And I actually look like a proper YouTuber right now. Because I actually invested in a better lens. I actually got two lenses. I have a... so the one I'm using for recording now is a Sigma 1.4 prime lens. And I also have a more portrait-like lens, so a 1.8 50mm. And I'm super happy with the way this looks because like I was never really happy with my video quality, and now this should really help out. And also buying these lenses kind of inspired me to make this video, and you might not see the connection if you read the title, but don't worry, we'll get into that. So in today's video, I'm gonna talk about 5 reasons why working for yourself is amazing. So as you guys know, I work for myself. I'm a one-man company, freelance truck life, all that jazz. And I just wanted to go over why, for me personally, just working for yourself is just the best way to go. Of course, it's not for everybody. And also, I've gotten plenty of job offers over the past years, but I never really felt like I wanted to take them up. I just love working for myself. And in today's video, I'm going to go over 5 reasons why I would never want to work for a boss ever again. I mean, never say never, it could always happen, but I don't think so. So reason number 1 is more opportunities. So if you work for yourself, essentially you're the master of your own time. If I get an invitation to like, oh, come to the other side of the world to work on this project for a month, I could do that. Even if I don't want to, I have the opportunity to do that. If I get the invitation to, oh, like come speak at our conference, which I sometimes do, I can just plan the time off to do that. If I were working for a boss, I would need to ask permission to do all of that stuff. I'm my own boss, I can do whatever I want. Of course, I need to plan all this stuff in between projects, so you still have that. I mean, if you have an ongoing project, you still need to say no, but you have a lot more opportunities going into it when you're working for yourself. So something to add to that is also that I wouldn't recommend doing a job on the side if you're working for yourself. I know some people do that, like they have a part-time job and then they work for themselves while they sort of build up their freelance career. I never did that. I never wanted that. I did get an offer for that initially first year when I started out, and I turned it down, and some people were telling me, well, why are you turning it down? But the reason for that is if you have a part-time job and some offer comes up, it's like, can you work on this awesome project for a month and it's super cool, you're gonna have to turn it down because you have this part-time job which you cannot get around from. So that's why having the opportunity to just book a month to do whatever you want is amazing. So point number 2 is having the freedom to do whatever you want to do. And this is something that personally is just really important to me. I love having personal freedom and personal choice to do whatever I want to do at whichever time that I choose to do. So it kind of plays into the first point as well. But like if I get a job offer of a job that doesn't necessarily sound fun to me, like I can just turn that down. If I decide I want to work on a personal project, I can book the time off to work on my personal project. Like I've done a lot of personal projects where I actually took the time off to work on these personal projects. And also this YouTube stuff, I mean, I probably wouldn't be doing that if I was working full-time somewhere. Like sometimes I work these jobs on site somewhere and then I'm full-time on site. And like when I get home, I honestly don't really feel like doing much personal work. I mostly just feel like playing a game or reading a book or something like that. And now, like if I'm working for myself, I can actually book the time to do this type of stuff. So that's really important to me, and it's just having the personal freedom to do all of these things. So this is something I think probably resonates with a lot of people, because I hear so many people like hating on their job, hating on their boss. I mean, I'm the same. I complain about a lot of work stuff and clients all the time as well, because I mean, everybody knows that clients can be a pain in the ass. And like, honestly, if I had all of the money in the world, I would drop client work altogether and I would just focus on like making tutorials, making personal projects, tutorializing them, doing videos like this. This is something I'm just more passionate about, and it's just like, I really love doing this type of personal stuff and interacting with the community and all of that. And having the freedom to be able to do that and to actually take time to do that is just really amazing. And I think that also creates a lot of more opportunities, because even like for all of the time that I've taken off to do personal projects, like sometimes I take a couple of weeks off to do work on a personal project. it always pays itself back. Like for example, I did the Jeep shot 2 years ago, and this year I actually got a request to do something with a Jeep in for a movie. So that's kind of cool, and that really shows that like this personal project that I took time off translated into a new job. So that's like something I really love to do, and just having the personal freedom to be able to do that. And also on the side note, sometimes I just take a couple of weeks off to play games or something like that. Like if I want to play a game, I'll take time off. Actually, I initially took time off in November to play the new World of Warcraft expansion and Cyberpunk, which both got delayed, so that kind of sucked. But the benefit of that is that, as you guys know, like I have a little bit of problem with my arm. And the benefit was I had already taken the month off to do all of that stuff, work on personal projects. So that's why I was actually able to also just keep the time off. So stuff like that is just really nice to be able to do. Right, so point number 3 is a difference in mentality. And this is something you probably don't really get if you're working for your boss, but I'm gonna try to explain it. Like if you're working for a boss, you kind of have the security that your next paycheck is gonna come in the next month. Of course, right now due to the whole Corona stuff, that's not necessarily the case for everybody, but in general, like it's a little bit more safe. You just do the work for your boss, the boss pays you, then the month after you do the same, the month after you do the same. So if you work for yourself, there's none of that. I mean, of course you build up a client repertoire and clients will come to you and stuff like that, but there's no guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month. And you have to actively work towards that. And I think that's the thing that like kind of changes your mindset as well. Like for me, this was really something that really snapped when I started working for myself. So before I started working for myself, I was never really super business oriented or something. And really when I started working for myself, it was like a switch that went off. Like, okay, now I need to make this work. So I started going to conferences all the time, was talking to literally everybody. I would just go up to random groups, buy everybody beer, stuff like that. And like that way you just really expanded your network. And like for me, that was really a sort of, it changed me personally as well. Like I always used to be like pretty introverted and like not really outgoing. And also honestly, I would have never expected also to be in front of the camera and record myself doing this, because that's something I would have never done before. So a good example for this for me personally was, for example, that beginning of 2020, I decided I wanted to do more with the YouTube channel, with Patreon, with Gumroad. And I really wanted to focus on making more courses, making more tutorials. And for me, that was really a gamble. But I was like, I really want to be able to do more with this, and I want to make this sustainable so that I can also, like, so that it doesn't necessarily cost me money to take time off to do personal work and make it into a tutorial. But I wanted to sort of make it sustainable, that I can also live off like making courses, making tutorials without doing as much client work. And I still did client work this year, don't get me wrong, but I really tried to focus more effort on growing the YouTube channel, doing the tutorials. And it actually started paying off. Like my tutorials have done quite well. My YouTube channel has grown a lot. Patreon has done really well. So thanks everybody for the support there. I mean, people have been buying my courses on Gumroad, and it's getting to a point where I can actually make this sustainable, and I can keep doing this without feeling the need to necessarily do more and more client work. So thanks everybody for helping out with that. But like it's just sort of this change of mindset that gets you to do these things. Like if I was working for a boss, I would never put in the time that I'm now putting in to make these types of things. So that's kind of what I mean with like just a change of mindset. You have the you kind of have the payroll attitude of like, I work for a boss, I can expect my payroll. Or you can have the go-getter attitude of like, okay, I want to make this work. I want to make my own life, and I am going to make this work. I'm going to figure out a way to make enough money to do what I want to do and still have enough money to pay the bills. And I think that's a mindset you're not going to get if you work for a boss full time. Just, you're not. And I think like everybody who works for themselves will understand like this thing that I just talked about. Like it's really a different mindset, and that's just something I wouldn't want to lose by going to work for a boss ever again. Right, so this brings us to point number four, yeah. And that is, everything is a tax expense, which is one of the big benefits of being a business owner. Everything that you buy that's for your be able to do your job is a tax expense. And that's why I mentioned the lenses in the beginning of the thing, because of course I am using these lenses to record these videos, which is also part of my business, of course. I mean, my business is doing client work, but it's now also just like creating tutorials, doing YouTube videos. It's also part of my business. So if I buy something for the YouTube channel, whatever, it's a tax expense. But this goes much wider. I mean, of course, the workstation that I built was a super expensive workstation, but it's a tax expense. And after all of the tax write-offs, it ends up costing me about half as what it would cost if you were to buy it as a consumer. So even if you like do freelancing on the side, whatever, you like, it's generally a good idea to register yourself as a business, because there's so much tax benefits that you can get by having a business. And like literally a lot of stuff is a tax expense. Like, let's say if I'm actually able to go to FMX next year or another conference, it's going to be a tax expense. Like if I fly there, tax expense. Hotel there, tax expense. Food there, tax expense. Tax expense, tax expense, tax expense, tax expense, tax expense. But like so much stuff. Like even if you were to go on a trip, like let's say I want to go to the United States, and if I combine it with like some studio visits or a event that's there, even if I then after the event stay there for 2 more weeks, I can deduct the flight there, the stay there while I'm at the event, not the 2 weeks after, but I mean then I'm already there, and then the flight back. So in that case, it's also gonna save you money on taxes, because you're gonna be able to deduct the flight back and forth. I mean, not your entire stay, but there's a lot of these types of things that you can write off. There's like, I mean, a lot of stuff you do. Like even if you buy a game console, I mean, if you work in the games industry, for example, you can say like, oh, I'm gonna buy a PlayStation 5, it's gonna be for research purposes. So there's like a lot of that stuff that you can write off, and that's really something that can really bring in your total income tax. Like for example, in the Netherlands, tax laws depend on where you live, of course, but in the Netherlands, average tax rate is about 40%, if I'm correct. But like it depends on your tax bracket, of course. Like the more you make, the more, like the highest tax bracket is 52, if I'm correct. The lowest is 36. But like if you're self-employed and you make like an average income, you're gonna pay well under 20%. So it's like half of the normal tax rate. And the good thing is, like, if you're doing a lot of this stuff anyway, like even for a hobby, like let's say you work for a boss and you also still want to buy a workstation at home, you want to buy a camera, you want to buy a game console, whatever. Those are things that you might still buy. But if you're a registered business and if you put in enough hours, because for example, in the Netherlands, there's a requirement for the amount of hours that you need to be able to put into your business in order to require for a lot of these deductions. But if you're gonna buy that stuff anyway, I mean, it's gonna make a lot of sense to just be a business. Also about these local tax laws, here in the Netherlands, we have something called investment deductions. If it's above 450 euros, I get an extra 28% deduction. That's the main reason why I got the 50mm lens, because that would bring the total of these two lenses above that bracket, which would give me an extra 28% deduction, making the 50mm lens almost free. So there's a whole bunch of weird stuff that you can do. So yeah, like tax write-offs are just a really big thing, really big benefits of why it's awesome to work for yourself. So even if you, let's say, make 50K before tax with your full-time job, or before tax with your personal business, you're gonna be left with more money if you work for yourself, even though your income was the same. So that's a big thing, and that's just something that I think you would probably underestimate if you didn't work for yourself. Of course, there's also some downsides, like you don't get paid if you get sick. There's like extra insurance that you need to get, but we'll get into that in another video when I'm doing about the downsides of working for yourself, because that's not what this video is about, because of course there's also still downsides. So that kind of brings us into point number 5, which is higher income potential. And higher income potential doesn't necessarily mean that you make more money, because I understand there's a lot of people working for themselves who actually make a lot less money than if they were to work for a boss. But I'll get more into that a little bit later. But you have the opportunity to really like grow your income potential because of all these things. Like if you have a different mindset to, like, you have the go-getter mentality of like, there's no paycheck coming, I need to actively work on it. You have the potential to really grow your company. Like you could hire people to work for you if your business goes well. So you could really grow it out. So your income potential really grows. That doesn't necessarily translate to you actually having a higher income. It can also go the other way. Like I know plenty of people who try working for themselves for like a year, 2 years, it just doesn't work out and their income is way lower than if they were to work for a boss. And also, like I mentioned, working for yourself is not for everybody, but I also see a lot of people who try it for a year, it's starting to pick up, and then they suddenly drop it and go work for a boss, which is kind of a waste in my opinion, because then you're finally starting to build up this clientele. Clients know they can reach you for whatever work they want. And then if you go and work for a boss and you're like, yeah, I don't do freelancing anymore, they're not going to come back. And then if you start again, you kind of have to not necessarily start from zero, because you can contact them again and let them know, but you're not going to be in the necessarily at the top of their mind when they're thinking, oh, we need a freelancer. But anyway, your income potential is higher because of all of these things. You have the freedom to try stuff and see if it sticks. You have the freedom to grow your company, like get more people involved. You have the freedom to like do whatever you want. So your income potential is higher. I do think that just getting into working for yourself for, oh, I'm gonna make more money is the wrong way of looking at it. I mean, it depends kind of on like how you get into it. It was like the job I did before I started working for myself paid pretty terrible. So I was like, well, I mean, however bad I'm gonna do, it's gonna be better than what I'm doing now. But I think the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna make so much more money is not the reason why you should get into working for yourself. I think the reason why you should get working yourself is because you're passionate about your job and you want to have the freedom to do whatever you want. Like that's the big thing for me working for myself, is I have the freedom to do whatever I want. And yeah, your income potential is higher. Doesn't necessarily translate into being able to make more money, because a lot of people do far worse when they're working for themselves. But even if you make far less money, it can still be worth it. Like, let's say you make 30K a year instead of 40K a year or whatever, but you have more freedom to pick and choose what you want. You have more free time, whatever. Like, because probably if you're making less money, you're probably not working as many hours. So you have more free time. You have more time to play games, make personal projects. Like I mentioned, these personal projects can lead to more work in the long run. So there's all this stuff playing into it, which is just like the point, higher income potential. So yeah, that kind of concludes all of these points. So I hope this was interesting. And if you did find this interesting, let me know if I should do a future video where I'm talking about 5 downsides to working for yourself, because I can also think of plenty of downsides of working for yourself. Those which I of course didn't mention in this video because that was not the topic of this video, and else the video would get way too long. But again, also if you appreciate this video, leave this a thumbs up, a little bit, like help out the channel, please, thank you. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with my videos, make sure to subscribe. So anyway, that's going to conclude today's video. I really hope you enjoy. Let me know if you have suggestions for future videos, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. So thanks guys, peace.